Okay, so today you're going to be working on sight reading exercise 29 on page 2. Remember, you're leveling up on your sight reading this week. You are going to identify the key on your own, draw a doe underneath your key signature on your own, and then label all of your solfege all on your own. So while the class works, you get your solfege written in, and then we will check it all together. Everyone finished?
No.
Okay. Okay, let's go through and check our answers. So remember, the first thing we have to do, we have to identify that key signature. So this symbol right here, which is called a what? It's telling me I'm in the key of F. Very good, girls. Then I'm going to go down below my key signature and I'm going to label where doe is. And remember, I know where doe is because I know the names of my lines and spaces. Let's name our lines really quick. Ready, go. E, G, B, D. There's an F right there on that top space. Let's see if there's a lower one that we could use. Let's name our spaces. F, A, C, E. Good, I said top space, but I meant top line. So there's one on the top line. There's also one on the bottom space, okay? So I'm going to label my bottom space as doe, okay? Now I'm going to use this as my reference to figure out what my first note is. Remember, if doe is on a space, me and so are also on spaces. If doe is on a line, me and so are also on lines. So I know that this is doe. I can count up one of two ways. I can see that this is also on a space right above doe, so it's going to be me, or I can count up doe, re, me. I'm going to get the same answer either way. So my first is me. Okay, so my first measure is mi, fa, fa. My second measure is so, so, la. My third measure is so, so, fa. And my last measure is me. Okay, everybody good? All right, let's all stand up. Let's chant. The last measure? The very last measure was me. Okay, here we go. Ready on your feet? Let's chant. Starts on me. 1, 2, 3. Chanting, ready, go. Mi, fa, fa, sol, sol, la, sol, sol, fa, mi. Very nice, okay?
Now the broken thing.
Don't talk in between. Ready, up. Excellent. You can sit down, but don't take any music out yet because we're going to continue to review just a couple more things for our quiz. When? Tomorrow. Our quiz is tomorrow. We're going to talk about a couple of other things that you are going to need to know for your quiz tomorrow, okay? Remember, you will not only have to identify the key that your sight reading is in and label the solfege like we've been doing for weeks and weeks, but you're also going to have to identify notes and note values, which we've also been doing that for weeks and weeks, but you're going to have a quiz over it. Okay, so the first thing, you will have to know the 2 keys. Which key, what is this symbol called? A sharp.
And that's G.
And it tells me I'm in which key?
G.
G. So this G is just telling me, go find the liner space named G. That's where Do lives, okay? So let's name our lines real quick. Ready? E, G, B, D, F. There's Do on the second line. Okay? Our other key has this symbol in it. What is that called? Raise your hand if you can tell me. Alyssa. A flat. And what key is this key signature telling me I am in, Kat?
F.
F. And raise your hand if you can tell me, where is Do going to be on the staff? Do what? On the space F. Which space is it? The bottom space. That's exactly right. Okay? The bottom space is F. Let's name our spaces. Go. F.
A, C, E.
Now, do we also have E, G, B, D, F on the top line? Are those, is that also going to be Do? It is. So here's Lodo. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. They're both Do. Okay? All right. Any questions about this part? Excellent. Now, you're also going to have to know notes, the names of notes and note values. So raise your hand if you can tell me, what kind of note is this? Miley. It is a half note. And how many beats does a half note receive? Raise your hand. Kat?
2.
2 beats. Now, another way for me to ask that question, how many beats does it receive, is for me to say, what's the value of a half note? Same thing. How many beats does it get? The value, those are the same thing. Okay? So it's 2 beats. Let's go to our next note. What about this one? Raise your hand and blurt out, what kind of note is this? Julia.
Quarter note.
It is a quarter note. And raise your hand if you can tell me, how many beats is this worth? What is the value of a quarter note? Valen? 1 beat. Very good. Okay, here is the next. Yes, ma'am, Chloe.
8 note.
8 with an
Is it
H
a
at the
ninth
end. 8, no,
Okay.
note. Actually, it's notes,
Oh.
right? Because this is an 8th note and this is also an 8th note. Okay, how many beats do 8th notes receive? Macy?
4.
No.
4.
Julia?
Half.
Half a beat. Okay, so this one receives half a beat, that one receives half a beat, okay? All right, oops. And our last note is, raise your hand, don't blurt out. What is this one? Come on, oh, Jazeera. It's a whole note, very good. And raise your hand if you can tell me what's the value of a whole note. Yes, ma'am. 4 beats, very good. Very good, Ava. So, now let's talk real quickly about why each of these notes is named what they are. Okay, how many beats do I have in my measure? How many beats per measure? How many beats do I have in every measure? 4. Okay, so if I have a half note and it gets 2 beats, how many beats in the measure is it taking up? Half of the beats, right? It's taking up half of the beats in the measure, so it's called a half note. Okay, here we go. Quarter note. Quarter note is taking up a fourth or a quarter of the measure. Okay, so it's called a quarter note because it takes up that much space in the measure. A whole note takes up the whole measure. It takes up all the beats in the measure. So it's called a whole note because it takes up the whole measure. Eighth notes are called eighth notes because they take an eighth of the measure away, or half of each beat, that's 8, okay? An eighth of the measure. Does that make sense to everybody? So just remember, the notes are named according to how much space they occupy in the measure, okay? All right, so this is going to be on your quiz tomorrow. You'll have to tell me what kind of note they are, what the value of those notes are. You'll have to know these 2 different key signatures. You won't have to identify both of them on the quiz tomorrow because there's only one example on the quiz and it's only in one of these keys, obviously. So, but you do have to know both of these keys because it could be either one of those, right? It could be either the key of G or the key of F. You have to know both. Everybody good? All right, good luck on your quiz tomorrow.